Hello, Internet. Welcome to another episode of Quantum Council for this week. There's a segment in Business FM, BFM, they call Pokpek Parliament. So this is our version of Pokpek Parliament, where the Parliament started to convene on today, Monday. We are recording this on Monday. And what some of the things that grab your attention, Adi?
Well, they talk about foreign policy, and they're looking at post-ASEAN 2025. There's also a shift in some positions, as we know that former Economic Minister Haffiz Ramli has resigned from his portfolio and is found to be sitting at the backbenches seats with Nick Nazmi, fellow member. So all things like I'm also hearing that the PM himself made an open challenge for a vote of no confidence. And of course, they're trying to wrap it up with the 13th Malaysia Plan, which I believe would be finally announced at the end of the parliamentary session. So I think next month, Parliament will be sitting for this entire month, be very busy, passing all kinds of bills, debating, discussing many things. I think we can go through them whatever we can, Hafiz. But I think we also should mention the big surprise that PMX has been teasing us about. Is this really a big surprise, or what? We'll find out as we go through the first day of Parliament, and maybe if anything picks up in terms of news that is interesting and newsworthy, any changes or reforms, or laws or discussions, then we'll be sure to cover it as the sitting session progresses.
Particularly, Adi, when you mentioned about Malaysia, the 13th plan, is that's what I really want to pay attention to, because that's what Haffiz Ramli actually warned us, because they already completed and ready to be presented in Parliament, and then we know what happened, and now he warned us that there might be some changes in the Malaysia 13th plan as proposed. So I would like to hear what he has to say when government later in the parliament seat will present at this bill. And more importantly also, Adi, we have certain issues regarding the Fazlina Siddiq. Maybe how to say? I can't really put the words into this, but Fazlina Siddiq is one of the PKR ministers. Not just by the outsiders, the people, but also the insiders of internal parties members, are saying that he is underperforming minister, and today couldn't be a worse timing for her when she tried to nudge a question from, I think, Bukit Merah or Tanah Merah Bersatu MP. And then she wants to divert, and put it in writing, she said. But instead, the speaker insists on, like, you need to answer a little bit first verbally, and then you may say that, you answer the rest in writing. So she seems not to just get ready with it. As a minister as a whole, she doesn't give a good positive and good outlook for the prime minister. Where on the other hand, you have a prime minister, like you mentioned, like, hey, come, I dare you do a vote of confidence. That kind of suave you have from Anwar, that oozing confidence from him. But for his ministers, particularly this one, education minister, it doesn't give very much confidence. I do remember a few episodes ago that we mentioned about how underperforming Madani's government's ministers are, and she just doesn't get any clue whatsoever. I mean, some of the ministers pick up a little bit, like Sivan Sim. He's doing pretty good at the Human Resource Ministry. But Fazlina Siddiq needs to pick up a slack and, do very well, because not just, normal people like you and me talking about it, but even her colleague within the cabinet now, what seems to be, Rafizi also mentioned that she is the problem at the ministry. So she is the one, has a quick rise to the as being a minister, she was just a few years in the top positions of the party, in the positions, and then now she becomes a minister due to that Anwar want to thank his father, Dato, I think Dato Siddiq, yeah. A good friend of Anwar Ibrahim during the Abim years. So again, Fazlina Siddiq, it may not be. Yeah, I just go off tangent here a little bit from what happened in Parliament. You just want to tell our audiences that pay close attention to several ministers in Madani government, because some of these ministers, they may not, shock sendiri as we call it. Like, if you can't really perform, do what Nick Nazmi and Rafizi do. Get out from the office and let other people who wants to do the job, who can do the job well, do the job.
That comes to the question of, are there really enough people that can be identified with by the Prime Minister himself to be appointed as minister? Regardless, I think now, when you talked about how Rafizi was quite critical, I think being a backbencher, some say it's a fall from grace, but I think he's in a very good position now, striking position, to criticize the Madani government for policies that he might, because he was obviously unhappy with what is going on with not just the party, but also what's going on with the Madani government, right? So him now being a backbencher, he's free to speak his mind. He's not encumbered by any kind of constraints and obligations that would be expected of a cabinet member. And I think this is a perfect time for him to go back to his roots, which is he is a very data-heavy person. He is a policy thinker. He is someone that is able to make the formulas, able to be drafting all the ideas, policies, cabinet papers, white papers, and what have you. And I think this is a great time for him to really call out the Madani government going forward and say that, look, we may have made strides in these fields, in these areas, but at the same time, we need to get our act together in other areas as well. And having the freedom to do so, I think, is a luxury that is not afforded to him. Of course, he can lament saying that, oh well, he was in power, he could have done all this and that, but we also don't know what kind of constraints and limitations he had as as minister of the Madani government, had to toe the line and all that. Maybe he can air out any grievances. He can finally inform all of us to show what is really happening in this Madani government. Are they really working together? Are they cooperating one another? Because I think we've hinted this before, Haffiz, is that it seems that the PM himself doesn't have a hold on his cabinet. They seem to be, or even the government itself. He doesn't have a full reign of what is going on in the government. We see in government do certain things which suddenly the Prime Minister come out and make some clarification. No, I don't want that to happen. I have rescinded whatever this and that. And very mixed messages, right? So this is showcase. Maybe Rafizi can shed some light onto this issue. But I think which we did talk about was the challenge for vote of no confidence, right? He told the speaker that if there's any potential vote of no confidence, entertain it, throw it out. I think this came out of nowhere, really. Like, why does he feel the need to bring out this open challenge? Is he feel that he is under pressure, which I think he is, or is he trying to show some case of bravado here as well, or to show some decisiveness here? So it's a very odd message to send, especially when we've had several constitutional amendments prior parliamentary sittings, where that would have been telling enough of how much of a confidence that the Prime Minister enjoys in the Parliament itself. With that said, I think one of those constitutional amendments was the Parliamentary Service Act, which was announced to have been given royal assent by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong himself. And now this is very big. I'm going to tell you why, because this was something that has been advocated for many, many years by Bersih, by other NGOs, by other advocates, saying that they want a Parliamentary Services Act because that was repealed in the 90s, right? And that was a law that gave the Parliament more administrative and financial freedom to which able to conduct its own affairs autonomously. Parliament is able to conduct itself without being interfered. Speaker appointments, whatever the speaker is told to do, is more insulated. it insulates the parliament from all the political machinations. It has more independence for select committees, and it gives a separation between that executive and legislature. Because we talked about separation of powers last week. I think the fact that this is finally being announced as royal assent, I think it flew under the radar for me, and I think a lot of other people, which I think was 2-3 months ago already, it was announced. And this shows that Parliament can be more professional and less dependent on the Prime Minister's office. And this is something long in the making here, Haffiz. So I think it has to be commended here that finally we are moving towards a Parliament that is more independent. It is more robust, and is able to act accordingly within the benefit of a fairer democracy and more representative government. Those are the few things I just want to talk about first before I'll pass it to you and we can move on from there.
I just want to pick up from your last few words there, fairer government. Syed Saddiq, Muda representative, the only Muda representative in the parliament, mentioned about in parliament that how he received only 200,000 instead of 20 million of government MP. So he said that this discrepancy of 19.8 million is very, very big. And this 200,000 can only be used as to pay officers, staffs, and whatnot, all that routine stuff, utilities, but not to be used as a direct, to fund his constituency or to help the people, the voters in the constituencies, and so on. So I think the government needs to respond in this. So in a way that the transparency, because we have an MP here make a claim about this. He laid it out that this money. So I think the minister in Prime Minister's office should come out and respond why such amount, why 200,000, why is not 500,000, why not 1 million, and then secondly, why cannot be used for these certain things? Are there other things that it cannot be used for? And if it can be used for utilities and offices or whatever, what other things can be used for? Can he use that for the nation for Majlis Kenduri Kawin stuff? So these are the things that need to be, explained as well. Otherwise, it could just be another political brownies for Syed Saddiq here to just dominate the space of these conversations with, the government has no way of responding to him. Because otherwise it will create the perception that government is being unfair to the opposition's MP. And we don't know if it's similar standard happened to opposition MP in Kelantan, for example, or in Sabah or in Sarawak. Because Muar is in Johor. Johor is part of the Madani under BN. So maybe he has the advantage of that. So he receives 100,000. Can you imagine an MP in Kelantan might receive a fraction of that amount? So that could be the case because they are under opposition's state party. So that's another thing. Then another thing that I think I would like to highlight from this session also that some of these MP should, some of the heavyweights still are not. Wan Faisal's. I call him heavyweights because he likes to talks a lot of things in the parliament. He seems to be taking on the debate more than other senior PN ministers. So. PN figures. But more importantly, I would like to see PN grab the opportunity because there's so many things that what we call a bola tanggung presented by Haffiz Ramli. Now, can they leverage on this? They already have Haffiz Ramli putting it out there. Can they somehow capitalize on this as well and make it for their case as well? Not simply just copy Haffiz Ramli, but do even more further work and investigate on the claims that have been made by Rafizi Ramli, instead of just depending on Rafizi Ramli to dominate the space and not doing your proper job as an opposition to do check and balance. Any highlights, Adi? Apart from that,
I think opposition MPs who don't get fair and equitable funding is a running trend when it comes to Malaysian politics. It is a way to be punitive and to hamper any kind of challenge that the opposition might make, because it's funds that could always potentially be used for politics, to be used for political events which can strengthen their position, challenge the status quo. That is something that is not new. I think Sadiq has been saying this for his entire political career, ever since he was a YB. So something to, and even before that, the AP has been saying it for many, many years until they finally came into power. And it's going to always be the case. Any government is easy way to be punitive, easy way to hamper any kind of ability for the opposition to conduct themselves, lose favor with the people, and say, hey, look, YB is not doing its job. And in fact, YB himself might not have the necessary funds to be able to perform their duties. But going back to the Parliamentary Services Act here, the point being that I'm trying to make here is that it allows the Parliament to no longer report to the Prime Minister directly. It can manage its own human resources, the clerks, the people that works inside Parliament. It can its operations and research, right? It can do that independently now. It can hire its own people and choose who they hire as they wish. They can bring in specialists from different kinds of fields to ensure that it runs smoothly, more properly, and having access to the different kind of sectors, right, would help increase. It would help diversify the DNA that inhabits that works at the Parliament, no longer relying completely on the civil service, which sometimes we have to call it as it is. Sometimes may not be the best people to only be occupying positions, working positions in the Parliament. Maybe something you need to introduce different kinds of people with different knowledge and expertise to ensure that Parliament runs smoothly, Parliament is up to date, Parliament is able to inform the parliamentarians ahead of time to prepare them so that they can be more efficient. That is one thing as well. But also, it also means that the Parliament Office can now draft and submit its own budget, right? It doesn't have to rely so much on favor from who's in charge here, and it gives them that a consistent annual funding for both Dewan Negara and Dewan Rakyat, so that they can fulfill its functions independently. What I'm trying to say is that the Parliamentary Services Act means that the Parliament is removed from politicking, maybe not entirely, but it formally is removed from the opaque the opaque rat race that is the political arena here. Very, very good on that. And hopefully that can trickle down to better reforms, which, like what is experienced by Sat Sadiq and a lot of other opposition MPs, the allegations that the opposition MPs never get the equitable funding. So that's one thing. But I think we're almost out of time, Haffiz. I think we can talk about the elephant in the room here, which is the 13th Malaysia Plan, RMK 13. So there were hints about it, thanks to Rafizi, for, being opening, sort of quarter opening the can of worms here. There was focuses on economic restructuring, AI as well. I guess decentralization is also going to be one of them. A lot to talk about, but usually these Malaysian plans are 5-year plans that dictate priorities and strategic development roadmaps of what Malaysia is going to be for the next 5 years. So, any thoughts of this? I mean, it's still very premature to say, but obviously we can throw up our aspirations, we can throw up our ideas, even though no one really asked for it. But regardless, we can always brainstorm and give our 2 cents on it.
I mean, they already asked a lot of aspirations from, when they did the survey, I think a few years ago for the Rancangan Malaysia ke-13. So I think that happened a long time ago already. But I would reserve a lot of my feedbacks for RMK 13 when it will be presented later on. But as of now, just to touch on the matter is that I would like to see RMK 13 to be more future proofing our so-called industry. I would like to see where it's not only bolster where we already are quite ahead, advanced, but I want to see us more in terms of adventuring new sustainable industry that could propel us into the future where we have that sole advantage, namely would be AI or renewable energy, those kind of stuff where we could harness more and more, because certainly future proofing is the idea here with the economic, energy transitions that are already being undertaken for almost 2 years now already. So I would like to see more clearer, because whatever that represented 2 years ago, maybe it's sort of like a draft. Maybe now in RMK 13 is something more solid, a document, a proper document that has been revised for so many people on so many days. So I would like to see that Malaysia as a robust economy in the future, where it insulated itself from America and China in terms of in the middle of this geopolitics. How can we propel Malaysia moving forward, where we could not just rely on one superpower in a world that is going to be multipolar? So I would like to see. How about you, Eddie?
I think when it comes to these Malaysian plans, right? They're meant to be like medium-term blueprints to give principles and priorities to what kind of spending they want. And of course, the whole shift towards digital technologies is on the table here. But sometimes when I look at the past RMKs, it's always overloaded with all kinds of buzzwords: IR 4.0, net zero, gig economy, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there needs to be that element of realistic goals here. Of course, the realistic goals are simple: roads, schools, hospitals, right? Those are very tangible things, right? But usually it always comes the other things are wrapped around the ideas of high income economy, right? Which has been going on for like how many past Malaysian plans we need to transition to a high income economy, value added economy, right? And I think when it comes to Malaysia, I want to see something more tangible in terms of transitioning the economy within the next 5 years here. And how are they going to order and organize that transition here? Because when I look at these Rancangan Malaysia, right, all these Malaysian plans, right, I see a lot of centralized planning. And I think I've consistently said I do not like it when there's too much state and central planning, especially when industries this big we're talking about here. We're talking about massive, we're talking about manufacturing industries, we're talking about services industries, we're talking about finance industries, right? This is usually, traditionally, right? All these long-term planning ideas, right? They're usually on the driven on at the sectoral level, the sector-based driven policies, right? Not really, and driven by individual departments regarding that, right? Rarely does it get consolidated into this idea of master plans and master documents, right? I know there's like other countries such as India, Indonesia, and Vietnam. They like to do that as well. This is in terms of central planning, but when we talk about central planning, right? I'm also talking about from the perspective is this are these Malaysian plans ever representative of Malaysia's more diverse ecosystem here, right? Because we've said it time and time again, Sabah, Sarawak, and to an extent Kelantan, Terengganu, Johor are not the same as the rest of Malaysia, right? So to put everything under this one master plan, trying to neatly fit, a one size fits all, has to be taken into consideration. It's the same thing when we talked about the Bumi Putra policies last year, right? That it has to be sensitive and have an affinity towards the realities on the ground here. So that is one thing I want to see with the RMK. I mean, it's at the same time, I'm challenging the notion of these Malaysian plans. Like, are they really fit for purpose? Are they organized in a way that is fit for purpose for the climate that we have and the governance models that we have here? I'm just putting it out. Maybe it is the way that it's been done and is the way it's most effective, but maybe at the same time, it's maybe you have to stop thinking of these be all these 5-year plans, 5-year master plans as the be all end all guidelines of what is to come for Malaysian development. Because let's say there are things in the RMK that Sabah doesn't have priority to look into, right? What happens? Do we deviate from that plan? How much are we able to deviate from that plan as well? And will Putrajaya allow any kind of deviation from that plan? Historically, there have been, but to what degree, right? Until it's really tested, then we can see what kind of influence the RMK, these Malaysian plans really do have. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Of course, as the Parliament progresses, they'll be revealing more and more, and they're going to be announcing it. We're definitely going to be covering it as much as we can, especially when it comes to how much central planning is being made in this regard, at least for me.
And for those who are listening, if you think there's an issue being raised in Parliament that we didn't pick up, please write down in the comment below, and maybe we'll talk about it in the next episode. So I think that's it for this episode. This is the only time that we have. We definitely going to keep our eye on the Parliament sessions that's going to convene for the next few weeks here. So let's adjourn now, and then see you guys in the next episode.